Today's progress. I got out here last night and had an old concrete mixer. I chopped it up and made us another wheelbarrow here. Nothing rubs. I had to weld some pieces in here so that won't let that tire move one way or the other. But that wheelbarrow, the tire was rubbing like it would go away to one side and rub. We fixed it all. It's just spot welded together. Something to move some parts around, collect some scrap. You know, it's crooked at best, but I was able to cut something up and make something happen. That thing was sitting there and flopping over and all that crap. We made some handles. Carl, he's kind of short, you know, if he does need it back. We just won't put a lot of effort into it. It'll fall apart if you try to put too much in it. You could weld it out, but it'd probably take 2 or 3 days to weld it out, so thin. Beat the bottom out, straighten it all out. We cut those axles out last night. I was out here till about almost midnight. That's a little later than I tried to be out here. But to cut that old piece up right here and make something happen, and then we cut the axles out of the car so we could move it. You know, I had the long pieces in there. They go ta-ta-ta-ta. They thump too hard. I've tried to move cars around like that. You got to cut the axle out. I don't know what way you see it. Turn on the light here. We got in there and just cut the knuckle off of it. You can't cut that bar. Try to take the saws off, maybe cut that metal. You're not going to do that. So what I do is, like where it's got them little balls in there, you can cut the little cage out of it. Some of them are supposed to pop out, but I couldn't figure out how to get it to pop out easily. So I just cut the knuckles with the plasma. Got it to where we can move it out. Now next thing's next is to get in here and get these kick panels out. Get those kick panels, and we got to strip the doors. So I got to get it over here and strip the door panels and get the kick panels and get our donor pieces so we can make what we're going to make look really nice. Now, if I was to get a title for it, I mean, if I could find an old school 4.3 truck with a 5-speed, 2-wheel drive, you know, you could take a steering rack out. You'd have to put a Mustang 2 steering rack in it. And you could use that cradle. You just cut it. I mean, you weld that cradle in solid, obviously. And then that way you'd, I got the pieces, you could weld them back together or have it to where you can make a bracket to where you could just pull it all out and stick a 4.3 down in this and have a little hot rod. Something cool to, and a S10 rear end. You know, I might put it on the back burner. There's a chance that I could possibly get the title back, and then you can put a solid piece of metal across there for your motor or whatever, if you could find something like that. That would get rid of that drag link front end. You just put a Mustang 2 front end under it. You know, you could mount up something that would grab a hold of those. You could come from anywhere on the bottom or whatever as far as the steering rack goes. The steering rack's on top. Or you could actually just take and mount the steering rack on the bottom and put some extensions on it. However, it's a lot more work than it'd probably be worth, but I've done a few of them. I had a Mazda Protege ride a wheelie. I had a rocket front end under it, though. I just cut the rail off and put a rocket front end under that one. Didn't ride good. The spindles were messed up. I had 94 S10 spindle. I pushed the center of it out. I took that center, I pushed it out, had a sleeve that made inside those rocket spindles. That's too much. I should have just found like an old school S10 front frame section. That's really what you could use there. You could take the cradle out and put your S10 front part of the frame. That way you got motor mounts. You can put a 4.3 2-wheel drive, 5-speed in there. S10 rear end. Use the wiring harness off a truck to weld your new firewall in it, and just get some metal and cut it up and weld it all back solid. Put crank windows in it. That'd be something fun, but we're just mainly focused on the truck right now. We got to get this cleaned up. I got to clean this mess up, the grease and the oil and the slag. So we'll have to spray it off a little bit. I got out here too hot yesterday. About stroked out. So we ain't gonna do nothing today. It's still, the mugginess is too much. But once we get the kick panels and pull the door panels and pull all the pieces off we need for that, it's gutted. It's close to just being totally gutted. Then I'm gonna bring that truck down here and we're gonna try to see what, and we'll have to clean up, obviously. You know, I try to keep it pretty clean. Just so I don't get stuff in my arm or back or something. You know, if you ever slide down on a piece of metal and get it stuck in your back, you know, it turns into something nasty. Had it happen a few times. So I try to clean up. I don't have a big broom. And we can get this drug up and out of the way, put it up here somewhere, or maybe drag it to the junkyard. If we can't find something we can stick in there to make it cool again. You know, if you could find a old school 4.3 truck would be pretty cool. You know, I ain't gonna cut this hood up. I might just stick a hood and the fenders. I got it to where I can put the hood, the fenders, and everything else back on it. But if you could find all the parts pretty cheap, I used to find that stuff for scrap prices. You know, and just stick something together. If we can get a title for it. Who knows? You never know. If it goes too long, you know, obviously it'll go to the scrap yard and never be looked at again. But we're gonna pull what parts we want off of it. And we've just about got it gutted out, man. It's almost there. It's a frog's hair away of being just as beautiful as it can be. Just be done with it. It's just about gutted. So we're that close to having it done. Got to take a break. Might need some more electrodes for the plasma cutter. It only came one extra set of electrodes and one extra cup. So, kind of having to wait till later in the evening, not only for the heat, but all these guys out here working, you know. They're really throwing a lot of wood chips and stuff that can catch on fire, so I don't want to be in their way. They're really going to be out here for a while. You know, they still got the big trees and going down that way. You know, I look for them to be here a couple more months at least, maybe a little longer. If they're going to do what they say they're going to do. Then plus they got to go up this way too. You know, they got to clear that line out. It feeds all this up through here. So they'll just be out here and, you know, I worked on that till about 11. So when you get woke up at 6:30 in the morning, it's pretty tough. But, you know, to beat the heat and the humidity right now is just so much that I can't.